Okay, we're recording. So, hello everyone, and welcome to this interview. My name is Shanann Charania, and I work as a transformative coach, and I've been doing that for about 4 years now. And I have here with me today Jacqueline Hollows from Beyond Recovery, which is a nonprofit, and she works in the UK in prisons with their staff and their inmates, and she also works with professionals. And I really wanted to get her in today to interview her around the work that she does, the understanding that she shares with others, and how beneficial it's been for everyone in her life, whether it's her professional or personal life. And to give you guys an idea of what is possible for you and us when we look at our mind, more so than our intellect and what's gathered in our intellect, and kind of operate from the intelligence within us instead of the intellect, and then align the two. So that's kind of the conversation I'm aiming for today, and hopefully we'll get something out there for you that's extremely valuable. So welcome, Jacqueline. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be with you, Shanann.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to this. So I'm really curious and I'm really excited about this interview. So I wrote some questions down for you.
Okay.
And kind of just zip through them as best as we can. And so I wanted to start off by asking you just to talk a little bit about what this understanding of the mind is for you and how it's been beneficial or how it has changed your life.
Okay. So for me, the key element to this understanding, you touched upon this in your introduction there, is regarding the freedom of mind it gives me and the people that I talk to about it. So it's an understanding called the three principles, but it is when I talk about an understanding, it's more of a reminder of our intuitive mind, our possibility, who we really are without all our labels. And by labels, I mean stress and anxiety just as much as PTSD and bipolar. You know, all these things that we believe about ourselves that we live into. And this understanding to me points us back to who we are without all of that. And who cares? Why is that important? Well, because actually when we see who we are without all of that, we start to experience much more freedom of mind, and we start to experience the power of that mind and what we can do with it, and how we can create our life with it, because we don't really realize that we're creating our life anyway. And then we start to see, oh really, like that's me creating that. And then why wouldn't you create a life that you wanted if you're doing the creating? And it's also for me been helpful in seeing that I'm the one having the experience, and that it's okay to have an experience. So I can experience overwhelm, for instance, in my business, and feel like I've got so much to do, and and I start to look for things about how to fix that. And I get reminded at some point that overwhelm is a state of mind. That there isn't something to do to fix it. And that might be different from, say, taking action and thinking there's something to do, like, maybe I need some help or whatever. But the feeling of overwhelm is coming from me, and is nothing to do with the workload. Because sometimes I can have that heavy workload and go, yeah, so what? I just do what I can do. Or I'm glad I've got a heavy workload, and I can have different experiences. So that's been helpful. And what's been most awesome is seeing how that's true for everything. whether I'm a person suffering and in some sort of trauma, or whether I'm a person who's doing okay, getting through life, but a little bit of white knuckling, you know, and sort of successful and everything else, thinks life's okay, but just would like to be a bit happier, and everything in between. And so the universality of this approach means that me as a teacher or as a trainer don't have to be an expert in what you bring to the table. I just have to have an understanding of how the mind works, because I know that's the key to whatever you bring to the table. So there's a universality to it, and there's a common thread, and that's really awesome, because it enables me to work with a wide range of clients, and it enables me to see that in my own life that there's a wide range, well, in fact everything that is impacted by this. And so therefore I don't have to seek an answer here and an answer there and an answer there. It's just all look in one place.
Right. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And as you were speaking, I could relate that to my own life in so many ways, where before this understanding for me, I was when I would experience overwhelm and I didn't know it was coming from me, I would go outside and try to fix things and try to adjust things. And in many ways, when I was in the state of overwhelm, I would reduce things in life. You know, I would do less or be less, because I thought that was the solution for it. And then after seeing that it's all being projected from my own thinking, it allowed me to, as you say, just be open to what's there, and be open, be less open to what's here, be open to what's actually present. And that really did change things for me, because I didn't have to adjust it. Sometimes I had to wait it out, but I didn't have to adjust anything. It didn't mean that I had to be less and do less in order to get things done.
Nice.
I also love that you pointed to the fact that you can bring anything to the table. It doesn't matter. And that's usually not the common dialogue, right? It's like, well, hang on, you must have to know what I'm going through, and you have to experience what I'm going through in order for you to help me.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
and what I'm hearing you say is that you don't have to experience it. So if we're talking about business, for example, if somebody is an engineer, for example, you don't have to be an engineer to help them. You can help them see that an understanding of their mind is going to help them with their work as an engineer, or as a financial advisor or professional, or whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so cool. And it's a double-edged sword, because it sort of, it has people thinking, well, how come? You know, how can this be a panacea for everything? But when you get to experience it, you get to see why that is so. And I can talk about it like this, that the body works in a particular way. There's a system in the body, isn't there? So, you know, blood pumps around the body, and there are lungs and things that breathe, and all sorts of things are going on in the body and the brain that make us function as a human being. And I don't have to understand everything about what's going on in my body. It just works. And what's incredible about that working is that I can even abuse it, and it self-corrects. So I can give that body a really hard time. I can take substances, I can overeat, I can not exercise, I can not sleep enough, I can do all of these things. And the body is constantly self-correcting and trying to be a healthy body. And that's always happening, no matter how much abuse I give it. So if you look at people who either people who have abused substances and people who have abused work, same thing, right? They are totally abusing themselves. They don't get enough sleep. They don't eat properly. They usually self-medicate. They do all sorts of horrible things to themselves, and yet the body still tries to function. Now, at some point, that functioning and that thriving says enough, and it'll give you an illness, or it'll knock you off your feet, for instance. But that's just the body saying, I need time out. And you're not giving me time out, so I'm going to do it to you. And well, I don't need to know anything about that. I just need to listen to the signals. I just need to realize that I'm feeling a bit sluggish, so maybe I need some air, or that I need some exercise, or I'm not eating properly right now. I just need to listen to those signals, and as soon as I adjust to those signals, the body's like, yeah, great, thanks very much. I needed that fruit, or I needed that walk. Well, what we don't realize is, why wouldn't the mind work in the same way? So the mind is always trying to thrive, always trying to help us, always trying to do the best for us in any given situation. And we abuse it. And we abuse it with our own thinking, because we don't realize that we've got this tool that we're using constantly, and we just abuse the mind. So we get a little nudge that says, I heard a story the other day. So someone was went in the sea, and he heard, he heard in his mind, you should get out now, and he ignored it. So we abuse it because we ignore those nudges. And he got out in the sea, and he wasn't a strong swimmer, and he got caught in a riptide, and basically he nearly drowned. But then the mind said, just be cool. You'll be okay. Just be cool. Just tread water. And so he did. He just treaded water, and he said he didn't even know why. He didn't know why he wasn't panicking, but just for some reason he wasn't. And then his wife had gone and got somebody, and they got help, and he got out, and he was alive. And then he went into panic. But what's so cool to me about that story is that the mind is not judgmental. The natural mind just keeps telling you things to help you, just keeps nudging you. And it can be about swimming, it can be about business, it can be about your life, it can be about your relationships. It's just constantly helping you and trying to help you to thrive. We constantly abuse it and ignore it and overthink it and analyze it. And it just keeps going, oh, well, here's another helpful thing in this moment. Well, here's another helpful thing in this moment. And at some point, if we can tune into that, and if we can hear that and listen to that, then we have an easier life, whatever life we're leading, wherever we're at.
Right.
So I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It reminds me of, well, first of all, I'd like to point out what I'm seeing you or hearing you say is, and how it relates to me is, there is this nudge that we continuously get. Like you said, the body does. The body gives us this nudge to rest, or it will knock you out because it wants you to thrive. That's the default system, right? It's like, you've abused me enough, but my natural design is to thrive. So we're going to shut you down until we get to the thriving mode again. And I love that you said that, because we ignore it when it comes to the mind, because every single one of us, generally speaking, is more reliant on what we think we know, how to fix things in our lives. We don't do that with our body. Like, if I have an ailment, I'm okay to go to the doctor. I trust them. But if I have something in my mind that says anxiety, then my anxious, distorted mind will go, oh, let's go in isolation. That's a great idea. And so what I'm hearing you say is that to hear the natural design more than what you may think or learned about yourself to do in that moment.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I heard in what you said there, habit. So in the same
Mm.
way, we have a habit of, I'll talk for myself, reaching for the chocolate. Like, oh, I'm tired. Oh, I feel
Yeah.
good. Like I have a habit of that. That's my sort of prolonged habit over a period of time. And it gets to look like that's me. It gets to look like, oh, I'm just a chocoholic, or I have a sweet addiction or something. And, you can extrapolate that out to anything.
Right.
But actually, it's just a habit that I've got that I haven't noticed that it's a habit, and I don't know what to do about it. So when I'm looking at into, well, that's a habit and I don't like it, then I start to look here, how can I fix it? I need to go to therapy, or I need to put these systems in place. But all along, there's something saying, well, just do this. So, for instance, I realized one day, oh, I don't listen to what my body tells me. So when I'm hungry, that gets interpreted in my mind as I need some chocolate. But actually, I'm just hungry. So, an egg salad would be great. But I was overriding that urge, that hunger urge, with my habit. And I just never saw that before. I never realized that. And when I saw that, then I was able to go, oh, I wonder where else I do that. And then I realized I don't have a sugar addiction. I just have a really sustained habit of doing a certain thing over a prolonged period of time. And that habit is now reducing just naturally, because I'm starting to listen to, oh, well, what else then? What else you got? And so I don't have to do anything about that habit anymore. So it's easier for me.
Right.
And that all points back to that natural ability to thrive. It's our mind's ability and desire is to have us thrive in any given moment. And we just aren't always aware of that. We're not even looking at that. We're looking at what we think we know.
Right. Right. And that gets us into trouble.
Often, yeah.
Yeah.
And I do like to say as well, though, that it's not, people can hear this sometimes and think that therefore thinking is a bad idea,
Right.
or thinking is wrong, or blame themselves for being overthinkers or whatever. It's just the system. It's just what we do. Our minds have so much ability, and one of its ability is to grab a hold of something and make sense of it. And so, there's information comes in, we grab a hold of it, we make sense of it. And we live in a society where we think that is appropriate for everything. And all we're missing is that, not always. Not always, because when we grab a hold of it and make sense of it, actually we're limiting what we can see. And if you see successful people, Branson and other people, they have got much more freedom of mind. They don't just follow that first grabbing a hold and make sense. They go, what else? What else? What else? And they'll keep exploring their own mind, won't they? And that's why they're successful, because that just limits us. But it's a useful tool as well. So it's useful to know, I can see how to get out of this room, without having to think about that consciously, because I know where the door is, or if there is a fire, I'd be able to find the window very quickly.
Right.
But when we're doing that for everything, we think we can use that same tool for creativity, or for working out a business problem, or for working out a relationship problem, or for working out a habitual problem. But actually that's not where the answer lies. So we want to know we can look somewhere else. So that's what we're pointing to, isn't it? We're pointing to, and where else can we look then?
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. It's interesting you say that, and that makes sense that the successful people, when you do look at them, they live more from a free mind, and with pauses, they don't grab onto this first thing that their thoughts tell them.
Yeah. And thinking about that, successful people, another sort of thing that they seem to do is they don't mind sharing the mind load. So they'll have discussions. They'll have space. They know that space is important, so they'll have space. They'll set up environments in Apple where they've got environments where you can go and
Right.
lie on
Yes.
beanies and play pool and do painting, and you can do all of these things because they know intuitively that a spacious mind comes up with more ideas.
Hmm.
So they don't restrict their people's minds and their own minds. They say have space. Well, we don't do that. We burrow into a problem,
Yeah.
and and then so there's nothing wrong with burrowing, but then we want to get back out again and go, what else?
Right.
I
Very
don't know if
cool.
I've gone off track there, but
No, I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's for me, it was the difference between um when I started to get a grip of this understanding, it was the difference between looking at my thinking as that is the absolute real truth in this moment, and I should take action right now because I'm in this overwhelm and panic and I need to get out of it. So this thought is real versus understanding the entire system. And that made a huge difference for me because it made me realize that although your thinking may look real right now and you want to take whatever action it's telling you to, there's also another part of it. There's a mind that it comes from. And when I'm able to kind of grasp all of it, I'm less likely to be scared of the system. Therefore, just like what you're saying, I'm giving myself permission to be available for some clarity and some space. But without understanding that, I used to just go with whatever's here now.
yeah, yeah, lovely, lovely. And did you know there was anything else available? Did you just think there's what's in your head is that's it, that's reality?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And so it's funny because it's like a part of us does know. That's why when the understanding was articulated, I went, "Oh yeah, that's true." But the part of us that knows is maybe dormant because of our conditioning and whatever else. So I used to just grab that first thing and go, "This is the absolute reality," and go with it. And
yeah.
it's so much more limited and so much more. It's less shenan, it's less genuine.
Do you think, Shadan, because I noticed this, do you think that are there times in your life when you look back that you can go, oh yeah, I did know then, but then that seemed random? So there are times in my life when I know now, when I look back, oh yeah, I had a nudge. When I was living in a really poor area, and there were cars being burnt outside my house, and
Hmm.
and things put through the letterbox, and it just wasn't very nice. I had a little boy, 5-year-old boy, and I had a moment of clarity, and I thought I can do better than this. And so I went to night school, got some qualifications, went on to university, got a master's degree in the end, moved house, moved to a better area and so on. But until that moment of clarity, I'd sort of grown up with the belief I'm stupid and I can never be anything. I had a moment of clarity, which was, you can do better than this. I just followed that. And then I did better and everything else. But I thought those random moments of clarity were so random and so occasional, I couldn't rely on it.
Mm.
And so I would follow that, but then I would get back into, well, you know, what can I do? I can't sit around waiting for another moment of clarity. I just got to get on with life. And now for me, I see, oh, that was the same. Those moments of clarity were my thriving mind breaking through, saying you could do this. And I just happened to hear it in that moment and happened to follow it. But actually, that's how the system works. The system's always saying, yeah, here, have this, what about that, what about that? I listen to it more now. But before, I didn't know there was anything to listen to. It just seemed like a random good idea.
Yeah, I can relate to that myself. Yeah.
And that goes to your point that we know, we're born knowing,
Right.
but we don't know that we know.
Yeah, very true. Cool.
Oh.
So I know we're coming up on time soon. We have a few minutes, but I wanted to really ask you, well, I guess two questions. One of them, we'll start with the first one. So there is a dialogue, at least in my world and the world that I'm in professionally, and that is one of resilience and confidence. And to have resilience, you would, well, put it this way, the people that go through a lot in life have a more resilience. And the people that really work on building their confidence have more confidence. So what are your thoughts on that? I know that's kind of a broad question and it can go really deep, but whatever you can give us on that.
Okay. So I think for both of those things, resilience and confidence, if that is the received wisdom, is that people who work on or people who have been through get more of this. I think that is just a misdirection or a misunderstanding of how it works, because it just looks like that. So people who work on their confidence, it looks like they get more confidence. And therefore it looks like that if I am not, hard enough working, I can't have confidence. And same with resilience. We see resilient people and we think, oh, wow, yeah, no wonder, they're very resilient because they went through all this stuff.
Yeah.
And that means I've got to go through a lot of stuff to get resilience. And I just think that that's an innocent sort of illusion, a misunderstanding of how the mind works. Because it seems to me that all that's happened is that people are having their natural confidence and resilience uncovered by whatever they're doing. So you notice that I could say that I'm a confident public speaker, for instance. Now, I hated public speaking. I was completely, literally paralyzed by the thought of public speaking. And there was no way I was ever going to do that in my life. And now, of course, I've had several years of public speaking and, different types of audiences and so on. So you could say that I worked on that and I got confident. But it's not true because I still feel totally anxious before I do any public speaking. I still experience, not always now, but, often, an overwhelm of anxiety and lack of anything. And I experienced that as if it was true, as if I had no confidence and no voice even. And then I get on the stage or get on the webinar or do whatever I do and I talk and that goes away. Well, literally all that's happened from that moment to that moment is my power of thought has changed and is doing something else because I'm ignoring it. I don't take it seriously. In that feeling of overwhelm and anxiety, it looks completely real to me. My world is overwhelmed and anxious. But I know at a deeper level that, so what? Because my resilience and confidence are there regardless to how I'm feeling in that moment. And then when I get on stage and I start talking about what I love, or I start to engage with an audience, I'm thinking about something else. So all of a sudden, guess what? I'm like rocking it on the stage. I'm sort of like Madonna with the headphones. I'm there. I don't want to get off.
Yeah.
And all that's changed is that stream of thought that's informing me of my reality, as in it's creating it moment by moment, is just moving on, moving through me. Yeah. And my mind settles down and I feel better. So when I feel better, I get more confident. My mind settles down, I feel more resilient. And it's just that constantly in and out of, where am I in my state of mind or state of consciousness? We might talk about it. Where am I when I'm low and I'm not feeling that? I'm not feeling confident. When I'm in a higher state of mind, I'm feeling confident. And the only variable is the state of mind. It's got nothing to do with the personal development I have or haven't done.
Right.
Or the things that I've been through or haven't been through. That's the only variable. And to me, that has been so important to know when I look at my business, as well as when I look at my clients and when I look at my relationship. Like that literally all that's happening in each moment is where's my state of mind right now? And how I'm seeing those things are all to do with my state of mind and nothing to do with what they're doing or whether or not I have a resource that I don't think I have in that moment. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think you did. What I'm hearing you say really is, and I'm going to relate it to myself, is that because with this understanding for me, it showed me that there is, again, what we talked about in the beginning, there is a space of clarity that's available to us. And that's where the natural confidence and the resilience comes from. It's like an effortless part of the design. And the only thing that makes it so full of effort is us mistaking what it means and then trying to work around it. So for example, like I said earlier, when people say that a person who has gone through a lot is more resilient, or, I have become more resilient now that I've gone through this, right? And if somebody from outside is looking at that and believing it, then they'll put it upon themselves automatically, like I did. I put it upon myself looking at somebody else who's been through more than me, although my life is pretty decorative. But I used to go, well, it's not like that. That person is more resilient than me, right? And I used to believe it, therefore my behavior reflected it. But what I heard you say is that it's not true. The truth is actually it comes from this freedom of the mind. And so does confidence. And when you were talking about confidence, I could so relate to it in terms of public speaking. And what the example that came up for me right away was, I used to run some events here in Vancouver called I Dare You to Speak a couple of years ago. And it was about people getting on the stage and sharing their story, so that it builds connection, community, and so on. And I remember because I had to speak each time, either introducing the speakers or giving a little bit, substance before they get on the stage. And I remember every single time when I would be driving there, I would have all this insecurity and anxiety and thoughts coming up of, oh, I have to step on stage and what I'm going to say and how I'm going to shape it. And so I thought I would have to really work on that to get better at this. I would have to work on it. Now, at the same time, I do remember other times when I used to drive there or I had things to do, but those times I was really busy. Like I had to get the recording equipment and I had to talk to this person and get the registration. So I didn't have time to be anxious.
Yeah.
And I was completely confident. I got there. It didn't even occur to me that I'm insecure or anxious and I have to work on this. And the reason it didn't occur to me because I wasn't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
didn't notice that till after going, oh, well, this was different than this, but there was no training done in between
Yes.
to have it be different. So what it
Yes.
really was it was that free and clear mind coming through because I wasn't so busy spewing over my anxiety and insecure thoughts.
Yeah, that's right. That's another way of putting it. Your mind is taken off it. And so when people see that, because we're so used to looking at well, what to do about that then, what can I take away from that, is that when people see that and people hear you, what they think is, well, okay, I need to distract myself, or I need to do this thing, or I need to be busy.
Yeah.
And what we're saying is that no, actually the power is in understanding that when our minds are not on something, they don't even notice it. So when our mind isn't on our anxiety, it doesn't even notice anxiety. And the second part of that is, and because our mind has this constant stream of thriving thought, it will move on its own. It does it on its own. We don't have to do anything about that. It just literally, in that moment, you are distracted. In my moment, when I get on and I'm talking about something I love, it changes. The common thing between those two things, and there could be several things, and the common theme is that our minds naturally move on their own accord if we let them. It's only when we grab it and we focus on it that it stays a little bit longer in something. So that's the same for happiness. We can grab a hold of a warm feeling and stay in this warm feeling as much as possible because we keep focusing on how much we love that, and feel all lovely and woo-woo. And we can do that with anxiety or stress. But we don't notice. We only notice when it's something we don't really like. And the common theme is just, the mind just moves on.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I could see how people could go, oh, so that means I should be distracted because that's the technique.
Yeah.
And no, it's really not. And I get that a lot. And I used to do that a lot, is what is the best way to take advantage of this, right? To become more free and clear. What kind of strategies are there? So how do you do this? How do you do that? And I'm so happy that you pointed that out, because I completely didn't. And that I've come to see that when we understand it as a whole, it kind of does its own job there. So the direction we want to take is understanding it deeper, not trying to use it or not trying to apply it, but just understanding it deeper.
Yeah. And that's what our conversation is about.
Yeah.
And no matter where it goes, that's what we'll always come back to, is what do we know about that? What do we see that's universally true about that? Let's see if we can understand it deeper. And that has, in my life and in all my clients' life, regardless to where all their circumstances are, has put them in good stead. Because that just, everything takes care of itself when you know that.
Yeah, very true. Thank you. Well, we have come to time now, so I really just want to thank you for being here today and doing this interview and having this conversation with me, giving us your insights. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you here in Vancouver in June. So I'll say a little bit about that. So the event we're running is called A Free and Clear Mind. It's a 3-day retreat on June 10th, 11th, and 12th in Vancouver, BC. And if you want to check out Jacqueline's work, which I think you should, I'm really, really touched by what you do out in the UK in the prisons and for the staff and the inmates, giving them a new lease on life. If you want to check out her work, her website is beyondrecovery.uk, and you can also visit it on Facebook and get to know more about it there. And I'll post some details under this interview about the event if you are interested, and if this resonates with you, get in touch with me if you have any questions, and we hope to see you there. Thank you, Jacqueline, for being here.
Thank you.